Yeah, I work at the Laugh Factory right now. I'm the kitchen manager.
Nice.
I started as a host. Honestly, just because everyone's like, "Oh, you wanted to work at Laugh Factory to network," and I'm like, "No, it actually just started because I had just quit my job. That was in 2021. That was when I was running that restaurant.
Mm.
I just quit there. I was gonna start doing welding school, which I hated immediately. And when I started, I was like, I am so fucking bored from not working that I'm like, I need a job. And I was like visiting my friend Jackie. She's one of the servers there. And I just started talking to the one boss. And I was like, hey, do you ever like need help on the weekends? I'm bored and I need a job. And she's just like, yeah, like we always need help on the weekends. What the hell? Like, and I was like, okay. So I just started there on the weekends. And then they were just like, oh, you used to run a restaurant? I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, can you be the kitchen manager when we open the kitchen? And I'm like, duh.
How did you start running a restaurant?
So I've worked in restaurants like pretty much most of my like life, like, or at least, like careers. And I was working at one restaurant for a little bit from like 2017 to 2019, something like that. And then when we hired this one general manager, because I was just a lead line cook or whatever. So when they hired this one general manager, European dude, insane guy, like hilarious, but he anyway, not the point. We were talking one day at work, and then we were just talking about like business and stuff, and he's like, if you ever had like a bunch of money, what would you do with it? And I'm like, oh, first thing I would do is open my own restaurant. And he's just like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's my dream. That's what I've always wanted to do. And he's like, how much money do you think it would take? And blah, blah, blah. We're just talking a little bit. And he's like, next day that we have off together, let's have a business meeting. And then it just kind of like, we just kept, having meetings and meetings. And then like, he was just kind of like, I have the money. And I have the business because I've been a general manager for like my whole life. He's also been working in restaurants for like ever. And then me, it was like, and he had no back of house experience. He only had like serving, bartending, and like managing experience. And I've done every position in a restaurant at that point. So, but mostly back of house. So I was like, dude, like I've been cooking, like I have recipes, blah, blah, blah. So like when we opened up, the restaurant's called Kale My Name.
Kale My Name?
Kale My Name. Like, Kale My Name, Kale My Name.
Okay.
Like, it's a goofy name. I didn't come up with it.
As long as it's catchy.
Yeah. But anyway, he was just kind of like, yeah, like he's the owner, he still is, and then he was just kind of like, you're gonna be like one of the founders, and like, I was the head chef. I created the whole menu, all the recipes. They still use them even after I left, and yeah, it was awesome. Like we opened in April 2020, which was yeah.
Okay.
And blew up because we were the only vegan restaurant in the area. So it was just like, oh shit. Because I was like very skeptical about Albany Park at first because I'm like, I've lived in Chicago my whole life. So what were we gonna say?
You work in Albany? Wait, the restaurant was in Albany Park?
Oh, it's in Albany Park. Yeah, it's right there on Spalding and Montrose.
Okay, I'm still learning the area, but I think I know.
So it's in between like where Kimball and Kedzie is.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's on Montrose.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
That's why when you gave me the address here, I was like, oh yeah, like you're if I call my name, and you're like, what? And I'm like, oh, we're gonna talk. Like,
yeah. So you guys opened this business in April 2020.
Yeah.
And why did you stop? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, why did I quit?
Yeah.
Well, the thing was like because I was one of the like people that started it and stuff. I was literally working 80 hours a week, and people think that's like insane, and it honestly was, but I was about to sneeze and I lost it. Fuck. But yeah, I was working 80 hours a week, and during the pandemic, it was honestly awesome because I was like, what else is there to do? Let me at least work, save up a shit ton of money, and that's basically what I did. And I decided after things started opening up again, I'm like, I want to go back to doing comedy. I didn't think, I'm going to be honest, like I did not think things were going to go back to normal.
What was your prediction of the future?
I thought like we'd end up finding a way, but I didn't think things were just going to go back to the way they were. I thought we were just gonna have to like adapt to a new life.
Just like Zoom shows for the rest of our existence.
Well, I didn't do that. I was like, I guess there's no more comedy for me. That was my thing, or make sketches.
Yeah, it really the quarantine really showed how important live performance is in general for like human psyches, I guess.
Absolutely. Or even just like going out to eat.
Yeah.
You know, like fuck takeout. I'm sorry. Like it was just like no. Like, can you open this for me so I can hold this?
Yeah. What is
or
this?
Here. It's coffee. I'm like, you
Oh,
hold
this is
it.
coffee?
Yeah, I just like stole this from my roommate. I don't know what this thing is. It's
Okay,
like
this is some
thermal.
futuristic shit.
I know,
Okay.
right?
Okay, so you were doing stand up before the restaurant. You were doing stand up.
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't do it a whole lot. I started. We'll say I started in 2019.
Okay.
Because I kind of did it a little bit before then. I kind of started since I was like 21, but I didn't do it consistently. It was just like for funsies when I got drunk and go to an open mic. Like, but in 2019, yeah, it was like January, so like literally the beginning. I started doing it a little more consistently.
Okay. And then when I first moved here, you were going by Trashy Tina.
Yeah.
Was that from the very beginning? When did that start happening?
So yeah, that was just like a nickname that my friends gave me like way before I started doing comedy. And I just thought it was so funny that I was like, oh, if I ever become a comedian, that's going to be my stage name, because my last name's Youkhana, which is not hard to say, but when people read it, they don't know how to fucking pronounce it. So I'm like, I need a stage name. And I just was like, oh, Trashy Tina, that's funny. And then like a lot of my humor was like very like raunchy at the time. But there's like two reasons. One, I was like, I want to be seen as a little bit more professional, at least a little bit. And then two, I was getting tired of like people just like acting like they could just treat me like however they wanted. Like they would kind of just be like, oh, like Trashy Tina, so you're a fucking slut, you're a whore, like, you know, like making jokes like that. And I'm just like, that wasn't the point of Trashy Tina. Like the whole thing of Trashy Tina was supposed to be like this like punk chick that can't get her life together.
Right.
It wasn't supposed to be like some like
shit on me type of
yeah, and it had nothing to do with like being like a slut or whatever, you know. And it was just like
it's crazy that took a mind of its own for other people.
Yeah, and it like got to the point where like I'd like go to open mics and guys would just like blatantly like hit on me or say nasty things to me, and like I don't care, I can hold my own. And I'm like also like I do have raunchy humor, so it's like it's fine when it's like jokes, but once it started becoming like people thought that it was like really who I was like, oh no, I gotta change that.
Right. You gotta have boundaries, and like as an artist, if you pigeonhole yourself in this one little box, you can't. There's not that room to grow, and it sounds like you wanted to grow out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I don't want to just do raunchy humor. Like I don't mind making dirty jokes and stuff, but like I also want to make jokes about my family. I want to make jokes about being Middle Eastern. I want to make jokes about, you know, just life and just random shit.
Speaking of that, I watched your clip. You're biracial, white and Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
And was that, I mean, growing up, was that an issue for you, or how did you navigate that?
Not really. It was just kind of weird because I just kind of never felt like I belonged in a box at all, because like I grew up on like the northwest side of Chicago. Okay. So like not too far from this area. It's called Portage Park is the area. And it's primarily Polish, and then a lot of Latino, and that's kind of it. Like it's a little mixed up, but like, you know, so it's just like my mom, you know, she's American, she's from Chicago as well. My dad is like from Lebanon. He was born in Iraq but grew up in Lebanon. Came here when he was like 18. So like he's like mostly American at this point, but he still hangs out with a lot of us Syrians. So like he still has that culture, but he didn't teach me the language. He didn't teach me like.
Why didn't he teach you language?
He says it's because he was working all the time and that my mom mostly raised me, but my mom says it's because he didn't want me to have an accent. So I'm just like that's so annoying, because if anything, that would make me cooler if I had an accent.
That's so disappointing. Because having another language, do you speak any other languages?
No, I know kitchen Spanish, but
the important type of Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So how old are you?
I'm 28. I'm gonna be 29 in March.
Okay, so you're pretty young. We're jumping to a completely darker topic, but you were pretty young during 9/11.
Yeah, but I remember it.
Did your life change a little bit post 9/11?
No, it was more like because that's the thing. It was weird. I'm trying to remember like it was more like I understood it more each year. So like when it happened, it
With
was just
every
kind of
new
like
American flag, it got deeper and deeper.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like one of those weird things where it was like I didn't really understand it too much, but I understood it enough that like something bad happened that day. And then because I think I was in like first grade when it happened, because I remember my mom explaining it to me, and then like each year she would explain more and more, and I never thought of it as like a race thing. But I know like at one point I remember like us putting an American flag in front of her house, and my mom is actually like against flags because she grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. And I know we're getting
Yeah, no, I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, please.
So-
This is the meat of the podcast.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like my mom grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and like not to like go on a whole nother tangent, but basically there's a lot of things, they're very strict. And one of the things that they don't agree with is like the flag, because they see it as like an idol of like worship, especially in America.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
That's why it's so funny, because it's like if you're a Jehovah's Witness, or it's like that meme with the two arms,
Yeah.
and it's like going like that, where it's just like Jehovah's Witnesses and like anarchists, like piss on the flag.
Yeah, no, it feels like that was more. It feels like putting up a flag at that point was more to ward off crazy people, to be like, "Don't worry, we're cool, man. Just leave us alone."
Yeah, and then like, because I remember being like, I thought this was bad. Like, I thought, because I was like always taught you don't say the Pledge of Allegiance like at
Radical,
school
dude.
and stuff, and like, and my mom was like, and then at that point she even told me, she's like, you can say the pledge at school, it's okay, like do it. And I'm like, wait, I thought it was bad, like, and then she's like, just do it, like, she didn't really explain it. And then when I got older, it kind of clicked, and I'm like, oh, because I'm Middle Eastern, like, like they want to make sure, like,
Yeah.
I mean, at least my dad's not Muslim, so at least that didn't, be a thing.
I'd imagine the average American, especially at that time, wouldn't have known the difference anyway.
Yeah, but it's just more of like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
It depends. Luckily, Chicago,
Yeah, sure.
it's at least Chicagoans hide their racism. So
Yeah, they're not. It's not like the South or like the desert or anything. There's it's in moving here. There's still a what is it? The Midwest politeness.
yeah,
Yeah, within the city. At worst, they just honk at you. They don't get out of the car.
yeah.
And so did you grow up Jehovah's Witness?
That's like, so my mom, she was, when she was like her whole life, and then when she was like teens or 20s or whatever, she left it. And then after she had me and her sister had her kid, they reconnected with their parents, and they were like, oh, we want the kids to know the grandparents, and we want them to at least like learn about God and the Bible, so like they'll study with the grandparents, kind of thing. So like my mom at that point, when I was a kid, she wasn't like a practicing Jehovah's Witness, but it's kind of like, like if someone's like a bad Catholic, where it's like they'll preach and they'll like, believe in it, but they don't go to church, kind of thing. That's kind of how my mom was with like the Jehovah's Witness thing, where it's like, this
They
is still
do
like
this before sex, and then they just do whatever they want.
yeah. But it's like, yeah, with her it was like, well, this is like the type of Christianity I believe in, but like I like, we didn't really like practice. But there was like, it was weird. It was like certain things she didn't like. Like I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter.
Oh, because of witchcraft?
Yeah, I was one of those kids. Never watched a movie, never read a book.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, like movies in general, or just like?
Oh, to Harry Potter. Sorry.
Oh, I was like,
no, I'm a fucking idiot. I've never read a book in my life. No.
not even green eggs and ham? That's aggressive.
The devil's in those
Oh my
eggs.
Lord.
That's
Okay.
why they're green. No.
Okay. So you got like a hint of Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay,
So
and then
just
your
a sprinkle.
On your dad's side, he just chilling.
He's he grew up like Orthodox. That's Assyrians are usually like Orthodox, like
Jewish?
Christian. Oh, Christian. Like
Okay.
that's called Assyrian Orthodox. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever met like an Eastern European, like where that's like kind of like they're the same thing as their religion. Whatever. It's similar to Catholic, I guess. That's the closest thing I could think of. But he's just kind of like non-denominational Christian.
Yeah.
But yeah,
bland Christian.
Yeah, he's just like
Christian, no spice.
Yeah, like he's even against like organized religion. He's very like, oh, just believe in God and Jesus. That's all that matters. And I'm like, I don't. But
oh, so you're like atheist?
I'm a Buddhist now.
Oh shit, nice.
Yeah. I noticed the chakras. That's pretty cool.
I got into it during. So I grew up. I grew up Christian, but I grew up in an all white Baptist church, which was everyone gives me that.
That's
horrifying.
Well, no, it's just more of like when I think of Baptist, I don't think of white. Like immediately.
Yeah, I think black Baptist church tend to be in the South.
Okay.
And then there's white Baptist. It's it's a.
Did you grow up in Chicago?
No, I'm from California.
Oh shit! That's why you have that accent. Okay.
Oh shit! I have an accent.
Well, you don't. You don't have an accent.
Oh, I don't have an accent.
That's but that's California. Like California is either TV talk where you just don't have an accent at all, or yeah, man, bro. Yeah. It's either like one or the other.
It's funny because I've met people who talk like that, but they're by the beach. So I grew up. I wasn't
What
from
part of
LA.
California?
I was from Riverside, California. So that's the desert.
Oh, okay. Is that
ever,
north or south?
South.
Oh, okay. It's closer to Mexico, kind of.
No, more north than Mexico. Have you been to California?
No, not yet.
This is gonna be hard.
But
to
I have
describe.
family in Modesto. That's why. But that's super north.
Yes. So have you seen Breaking Bad?
Like a couple episodes.
Do you remember the vibe of Breaking Bad?
Yeah, where they're just out in the desert. Yeah.
Basically Riverside.
Okay.
And yeah, I grew up out there, and I was not happy with it.
Okay.
I've been talking to my therapist. We're working on not shitting on Riverside. This whole podcast for the past year has been me shitting on Riverside. So I'm trying to be cool about it. Wasn't a positive experience by any stretch. And very racist.
I was just about to ask that. Like, is it mostly white over there?
White and Mexican, I would say.
Okay. I feel like this is gonna sound racist, but I was gonna say that's everywhere in America now.
That's fair.
Like, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I went to Pilsen. I was like, I didn't go anywhere. This is the same. But I grew up. It was predominantly white, especially like 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
People from LA started kind of coming in after that.
Gentrifying.
Yeah, they started to anti-gentrify Riverside. And it was horrific in many, many ways. I've come to accept.
Mm-hmm.
But
are you mixed or are you just black?
I'm black. My mom's black, my dad's black, Spanish, Filipino.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So his family is like Creole, basically, like from New Orleans, and then my mom's family is from the East Coast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So you're just a nigga as far as they're concerned. Like you just black. And but in California, everyone has this idea that you're in paradise, even if you're not in paradise.
Mm-hmm.
So the decision to leave was kind of difficult because everyone's like, well, why would you leave fucking paradise? It's like, it's dusty here. It sucks. And so now I'm in Chicago and I'm very happy about it.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
You grew up out here.
Born and raised Chicago.
Chicago. Oh yes. Good. This pleases me. So you were talking about in your video, you have a girlfriend?
No.
Oh, that was just a bit then.
Wait, which bit?
The you were talking about you and a girlfriend were gonna go fuck a dude.
Oh, okay. So no, it wasn't my girlfriend. It was actually Courtney Peterson.
Okay.
And
all right, cool.
Which she doesn't care. She told me I could use her name anytime.
Perfect.
What happened was like we went to Tennessee, and it was in literally right around this time last year. So it's our anniversary. Aw, me and Courtney's anniversary. I should text her and be like, happy anniversary, babe. Really quick side note, I saw her at the Laugh Factory Christmas party the other day.
Yeah.
This is so raunchy, whatever. She was wearing this like really cute dress and like really like low cut, and I was just like, hi Courtney, and immediately like and then I'm just like, hi Courtney, you look great, and then she starts laughing, and then Zach is like right next to her, and he's just like, hey, all right here. I'm like, sorry, man, but also I'm just so jealous.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine Zach angry. He seems so calm.
Oh no, he's
He was
like
just chill.
he's
He was
so
just
chill.
like, hey, bro, you know.
Yeah, and I've gotten to know him better now. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah, he came on the podcast. Both of them have.
Oh, nice.
And they're very sweet people.
Oh yeah, Courtney is like one of the most genuine people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Like, so that's how I got to know her, was through that trip, because I'd like met her once or twice before, but I never really hung out with her. And then like it was me, her, Jess Misitano, all decided to go to
That must have been wild.
Nashville. Oh yeah, it was fun though. So like the first night we were there, me and Courtney decided to like have a threesome with this one dude because we both had a crush on him, and we're like, like fuck it. And then yeah, that was interesting. That was our first night in Nashville. The rest of the days, like I feel like got tamer and tamer as the time went on. But
You really buried the lead there. The very beginning, just started with a bang and everything. So that's how you guys got very, very close, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and then I don't know, we just got to know each other better through that trip, and then just even when we came back to Chicago, we just started hanging out more and talking more, and we're just like a lot alike. Like that's one thing I like about her, is that I feel like when I'm talking to her, I'm like, oh, it's like talking to myself, like because we're just like so much alike.
It is interesting how you can meet somebody and just click.
Yeah.
In that way, I found that the person I clicked with, I'm around all the time, is Rachel Hall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's cool. I don't really know her that well, but she seems really cool.
She is. She when I first moved here, I didn't know that comics could just hang out at the Laugh Factory.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, honestly, I didn't either. I never even went there until I started working there.
Yeah, I was under the impression back home, back California, we only had the Ontario Improv, and you couldn't just hang out there. It was like they booked famous people, and you know that was that. But I went to the Laugh Factory and I just kind of sat there for hours because I didn't know what to do. and eventually Rachel was like, "Hey, who's this?" and ever since then we've just been hanging out all the time. But so you and Courtney and Jessica, you went to this trip for stand up or just for fun?
Both, because like me and Jess like planned it, because I don't know, it was already winter, and I was just kind of like, I fucking hate winter in Chicago. It's the only reason I would ever maybe leave Chicago, but I love it here, so I just kind of have to like grin and bear it, like I don't know. But anyway, I was like, oh, let's go somewhere like somewhat warm but kind of close, you know, because and I was like, oh, you know what, let's go to Nashville, that would be fun, because I knew it wasn't like a far drive. And I know there's like a little bit of comedy there. I'm like, let's just go to Nashville. Let's just do some open mics, network, you know. And she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, we can go hiking and stuff. And she's like, okay, because that's one thing I love about Jess. Like me and her, like totally like hiking buddies. Like, yeah. So we went, and then she just invited Courtney like last minute, which I was just like, okay, she seems cool, like, you know. And then yeah, it was a lot of fun. We just did open mics because like we didn't know anyone there to like try to get booked on anything. So we're just like, oh, let's just go and network. And it was cool. Nashville is a really fun city, but it's not like amazing for comedy. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But there's worse. But it's not like the best.
I could see that. I think the big three are L.A., Chicago, New York.
Yeah, and then kind of Austin now.
Is that because
Austin's
Rogan?
trying? Yeah, there's definitely a decent scene in Austin, and I definitely want to go back because I did really good in Austin.
Really?
So yeah, I went there in I think it was May of this year or April, something like that.
You've been kicking. You've been going places,
dude. This year I've been to like more places than I ever been like in my life.
And that's because comedy kind of introduced that.
Partially, and then I'm just kind of like, dude, like if I have the money for it, like why not? And it's like traveling's really not that expensive if you do it right. So many, like I used to use that excuse. I was gonna say so many people, but even me, I'd always be like, well, I can't travel because I'm poor. And it's like, no, you can just don't get Uber Eats like for a couple of weeks, you know what I mean? Or like don't go to the bar and drink and spend $100. You know, it's
you go
like
to the liquor store and drink.
Yeah, like
the move.
you know, and it's just like as long as you know how to budget correctly, and if you have 4 credit cards,
that is the move.
Yeah.
Fuck it. We're all gonna die soon anyway.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
But that, you know, what makes me so happy is your Chicago pride.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Because there's a lot of people in Chicago who y'all seem to bitch about the winter a lot, But outside of that, there's so much pride in this city.
Dude, because it's awesome. Chicago's just perfect. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I mean, I always make this joke with people where I'm like, I need to find someone that'll love me as much as Chicago and loves Chicago. Like, it's just so true. We're like the most loyal people to our city.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because, like, I don't know. It's just like, we're kind of perfect. Like, it's just like, what isn't there to do in Chicago?
Yeah.
Anything you could do anywhere else, you can just do in Chicago, and it's going to be better. Like, we're the food capital of the world.
Yes.
We have the best food in the entire world.
Speak, girl. Speak.
It's true. And it's like, you know, name a fucking country you could find a restaurant for it here, you know? Like, that's what I mean, where it's just like, and it's just like, oh, the transportation isn't bad. I will say, though, New York does have a leg up on us when it comes to public transportation.
I believe it.
Oh, man. But you can't drive in New York.
Yes. It seems I will. Oh, let me slow down here. I've never been to New York.
Oh, really? Okay.
I still need to go. I haven't been to a lot of places.
New York's my new favorite, my second favorite city now.
Do you think you would go there if comedy popped enough, or what is the plan?
Well,
there?
my plan is to move there like within the next 2 years. But what I want to do is like not really move there. I want to rent an apartment there and here, so I can just kind of go back and forth.
How much are they paying you at the Laugh Factory?
Oh, nothing. But
okay, you just selling drugs? You hustling? What are you doing?
No. I just like well, when I say apartment, I mean like a room.
Okay.
I can like rent a room there. I got really lucky with my apartment, so I got like a good deal on it. And I was living there by myself for a long time. I recently got a roommate because I was telling her like, oh, I want to go back and forth from New York to Chicago eventually. And she's like, oh, I want to do the same thing. And I'm like, you know, I got an extra bedroom. And she's like, oh, really? So, like, yeah, she ended up moving in with me. And it's been cool so far. But, yeah, the rent there is so cheap already that I'm like, yeah, even if it's a little more in New York just to get, like, a tiny little bedroom, like, I just need to put, like, a twin-size bed, you know, or something. But that's what I'm saying. That's, like, a plan I have for, like, down the road. Right now, I have this cool Airbnb guy that I can stay with. Because the last time I was there, he was like, oh, anytime you come here, hit me up. You can just pay me cash instead of through Airbnb, and I'll give you a deal. It'll be cheaper, and you'll help me out. So
it feels like you live life through the cracks.
Like yeah, that's the Chicagoan in me.
That's the Chicago. Okay.
No, that's like how you have to survive here. Like,
right.
You know, that's just what we do.
You guys are hustlers.
Oh yeah.
So you sounds like you, Courtney, and Jessica are pretty close.
Yeah.
I feel like when I first moved here, I saw that. All of it's an emotional blur, but I do feel like I remember seeing you guys at what was it, Three Dead Moose once or something, and you guys were all together.
Oh yeah.
You seem crewed up. And that
with a thick crew.
Yeah. Can you guys start your own show called The Thick Crew?
Right.
That would make me so happy. But before comedy, did you feel like you had those connections? Like that type of that kinship? I would say I ask because comedy stand-up feels, I guess any art form, there's a camaraderie. There's like we're all doing this thing that's really hard to do. Did you have that pre-comedy?
Yeah, but I'm also a really friendly person. That's just who I am. I've always been extroverted. I've always been nice. I've always been just like friendly. So it wasn't hard to meet people and like make friends my whole life. It's like no matter, if anything, it's like I try not to make friends like places, and I'm just like, well, I guess I have like 5 new friends now. Cool. Like
you've always just been like friendly with people?
Yeah, and I'm just very approachable. I don't know. People have told me it's like my energy or whatever. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's cool, I guess, but it's also like sometimes annoying because I'm like sometimes I like to be left alone. Like I hate when I'm on the bus and the people just start talking to me, and I'm like, come on, man. That's what my headphones in.
Yeah,
like,
the headphones feel like a universal like don't speak to me.
Yeah, but crazy people don't care.
Yeah.
And the crazy people are the ones who love me because they just read my energy right away.
I know that game.
And it's not like they want anything. They don't want money, nothing. It's just they want to talk to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it because I kind of look like a crazy person too. But I also have that safe energy. Yeah. So I don't know.
Safe crazy. I think safe crazy is just being artsy.
Yeah, that's true.
And so before comedy, I mean, what was the goal in life? What was driving you?
Nothing. I was like so depressed.
You're just existing?
Yeah, like I don't know, my teens and early 20s I was like going through a hard time just like with depression and stuff, and like comedy definitely helped me out with that. Um like I remember the first time I ever got booked on a show, I was like it was like my day off. It was like in 2019, like the end of 2019. It was like when winter first started, so like the time change and all that, and that's when my depression hits me the hardest. Which is, I always tell people, I'm like, regular depression is not as bad as seasonal depression, because at least with regular depression, it's like, oh, something triggered me and like I'm sad now, but I can work through that. I can't do anything about the sun not being out, you know? And it's just like, fuck, dude. Like,
I'm learning.
yeah, it's hard though. And like, so anyway, I remember like waking up, it was like my day off. I woke up at like 6 p.m. or something because I just stayed in bed all day because I was so depressed. And I like got up and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't like live like this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to an open mic just so I could feel something. And I literally just like I went to fucking
just so I could. That was so dramatic.
Yeah, I know it's like, but it's so stupid at the end of the day. It's like I think about it, I'm just like, ugh, like who cares? But it's also like, yeah. And then like I remember going to like fucking Trigger Warning. And
yeah, you'll feel things there.
Yeah. I was like, oh, perfect, because I've been there once. That was the first open mic I ever did when I was 21.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, at the Drop. That was the original one. And this was the one at Sedgwick Stop. Because I looked up that there used to be a website for Chicago open mics, and I went on the website and I'm like, what's going on today? Like a late one, and it said Trigger Warning. I'm like, oh, I've been to that one before. I'm like, oh, they moved the place. Okay. And I'm like, oh, that'll be a good one because it's like a heckle mic, you know, that'll be fun. You know, yeah, like you said, I'll definitely feel something. So,
yes.
Went, did decent, like at least for at that time. Then talked to a bunch of people, made some friends, and then Keegan Buckingham like booked me on his show.
Keegan Buckingham.
Yeah.
Have I met this person?
You never met him?
I don't think so.
He's the bicycle comedian now.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was before when he was just going by his regular name, but now he's the bicycle comedian.
Yeah, he's really leaned into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, he's something else. He's a character, all right. But he's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
He like booked me on his show, and I was like, oh my god, really? And he's just like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my god, thank you. Like,
that must have felt amazing.
yeah, it felt great. I was like, wow. I'm glad I left the house.
Yeah, it's funny when you get depressed like that, and especially, I mean, the sun, I didn't realize. Like, I'm from a place where it's just always sunny and hot. I never had to take vitamin D in my life. And now I'm out here. Fucking yesterday, I took a nap, and I woke up at like 3 p.m., and I looked outside. I was like, oh, it must be like 2 in the morning. And my whole perception of the day is fucked.
Yeah.
But I get you. I actually wouldn't have assumed. Well, I guess I wouldn't have assumed you to be a fairly depressed person because you come off so bubbly. But do you feel like you've gotten better at that, or is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So
now it's mostly seasonal when I get it, but it's still just like, I'll have my days. But I've learned to work through it with like meditation and stuff. So
that's what helped me with the thing.
Yeah.
The Buddhism stuff. I think with religion in general, it can be so useful. Like, it has the potential of being so helpful. It's just how people use it.
Yeah, I had to let go of a lot of grievances I had about it because I used to be like a bitter atheist for so long. And like, once I had like I like even hate saying this because it sounds so gay. I'm just like, I hate like saying like my spiritual awakening, but like, yeah, I definitely had one of those. And like,
did you do mushrooms?
No, it was, I mean, I've done psychedelics, don't get me wrong, I love them. But no, it wasn't that. I was just like, it was towards the end of a really bad depression episode I had for like a year straight, and like towards the end of it, a bunch of shit happened at once where it just like turned my life upside down. And then like I moved to another apartment, and then when I was there, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't want to be depressed anymore, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to like try to change this. And then I started watching these like certain YouTube videos, and there was this one guy I started watching, I forgot his name, Aaron Doughty, I think, something like that. He's like one of those like new age, like, you can expand your mind with meditation. But I liked him because he was just kind of like a bro. But he'd be like, yeah, like your meditation, bro. But I'm like, I like it because it's more practical. It's not like those hippy dippy like douchebags who are just like, hey, it was just like, yeah, bro, like, if you just like do meditation, like, yeah, I cured my ADD, bro. Like,
I guess.
and I'm just like, oh, I like this guy. He's just a guy,
Yeah. Almost, he seems attainable mentally.
Yeah.
When you see the guys that are bald in the robes that can like chop trees and shit, it's like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be that level.
Yeah, but this dude was just like, I grew up on a farm, like, and it's just like, oh, okay, you're very American. You're just a dude.
Very relatable.
Yeah, and then I started like researching about like ancient religions and stuff, and like it was more like I was just interested in it at first, but then like Buddhism was the one I like just resonated with the most, and I guess I'm a little bit of a Taoist too, because I recently got I did a ritual with Taoism, so I guess I was like kind of baptized like as a Taoist. But
what is the difference?
Taoism and Buddhism is like, so Buddhism is like has to do with like Buddha, obviously. And now I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna sound like such a poser because I don't know what to say. No, like Taoism is more like go with the flow. And it's like the Tao, which is like the flow, and it's like kind of like a nothing matters, like
nothing matters, but not in a nihilistic way, in like a acceptance way.
Yeah, well, I guess it is technically nihilism, but like because I consider myself a nihilist 100%, but not but it doesn't necessarily have to be negative,
right?
Because I do believe nothing matters, and that's part of the reason I do comedy, because I'm like, oh, nothing matters, so like why not?
Right.
It's like there was a meme where it's like nothing matters, so, and then it was like one picture is like someone like crying, being like nothing matters, like so why? And then there's another person like partying, being like nothing matters, so why not?
Right.
And it's like it depends on your perception
and how you frame. Yeah, that philosophy I have mixed feelings about, I guess. Well, because a big thing, I'm very proud of myself. Race hasn't been brought up too much in this episode. I bring up race a lot, but here it comes.
I like talking about it. So
good, we're getting into it. I come from this perspective of like race was always brought up to me every single day. One of the new phrases that we have that, let me regather my thoughts. When you seem, you know what I mean? When thoughts go everywhere and you're like, let's wrangle this shit in.
Yeah, like arrows all going like different tangents, and it's like, wait, what is my point?
So like things like the word woke have been co-opted into meaning something different. Yeah. And I don't like that. Another one of those words is microaggression.
Oh, okay, I know what you mean.
And I don't like what the word has become in its perception, but the word is a really good description of my experiences, where I would have moments of extreme violence and danger, the classic racism, I'll call it, but then I would have on day-to-day microaggressions where one or two people every day would somehow bring up, you're black, just so you know. In one way or the other, they would all, and it like slowly just drills in your mind where you're always thinking about race, because you're surrounded by people that don't look like you, who keep bringing up that you don't look like them. And so then when I started to realize in talking with a lot of white men in particular, a lot of white men have this like hyper fixation on logic. They run. Yeah, they run on.
Or they like to think.
It's they think they're being logical because they've taken out emotion and context and history.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're smart.
Yes. God damn it! I'm so glad you get what the fuck I'm saying here.
I know exactly what you're saying, bro.
But with that same logic, so when you say like, well, nothing matters, I could see them being like, well, nothing matters. And their version of nothing matters means, oh, I can fuck with you. I can destroy you. The system stays the way the system should be for me. And so my knee jerk when I hear nothing matters is I think about how they would speak on it. And I'm trying to remember not to project that onto what you're saying, because I know that you're saying
I
something
get what
different.
you're saying exactly. See, like when I say the whole like nothing matters thing, which now that you put it that way, it's definitely in the perspective of like I do have that privilege saying that, but it's also like at the end of the day, it's a lot of like letting go of ego, and like race has to do with ego, because I know a lot of people that use race as an excuse to act a certain type of way. And I've seen it even like with like people of color where they think they can just talk to people like, ooh, this might get me canceled for saying this, but one thing in particular I've noticed is a lot of black men use the word white in front of women just to have an excuse to be misogynist. And it's like, of course, white women definitely hold privilege in certain aspects of life, but black men also hold privilege in certain aspects of like life for just being a man, you know? And it's like people have to understand there's different types of privilege. It's not just black and white, like with life, not just with race, but like in life. Life is not black and white. Life, there's so much gray.
I think they call that intersectionality.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, and I personally struggle with it. I think it's, for me, sometimes it's hard to know when am I in the, let me wrangle these thoughts in. I have a story. I have an example of when I think I did that, and I think that both parties were right and both parties were wrong. I was in college. I went to Cal State San Marcos, and Cal State San Marcos was very, very big on feminism. But like, to me, white female feminism.
Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Between that and like radical feminism.
They
Because I
were-
consider myself a radical feminist, but yeah.
The camera can't see. I'd had a fist. But I went there, and they were very aggressive. And I was coming from a space where I was surrounded by mostly like white men being fucking crazy. And then I went into this space where I thought I was going to be heard, and I wasn't.
Oh, see, that's fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah. In that same note, I was loud, I was obnoxious, I was immature. It's incredibly immature, and I would say very sexist in a lot of ways. And I was in this class, I can't remember what it was. It was something. And there's this white girl who was basically me, but a white woman. So we would butt heads, and we were both loud, we both were opinionated, and we were talking about how women felt walking down the street at night and how that's scary. And I retorted with, well, when I walk down the street, I'm afraid of you because you're afraid of me, and I don't know what you're going to say or claim because I'm walking down the street. I did not word it that way. I did not word it as calm and I think articulate as I did now.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth, and then she got up and she started yelling. She went into the front of the class and she said, I'm going to make sure you never get laid again. And then she looked, she looked at the rest of the class, and she pointed at everyone here, make sure he never gets laid again. And then she walked out, she slammed the door, and we had like 45 minutes of class left. It was super awkward.
Oh, man.
And when in retrospect, I think we were both right and we were both wrong. I think that I want to say I was in some sort of feminist class, so that the subject was women. And so I don't think that was the most appropriate time for me to bring up my perspective, because it wasn't what we were talking about. Like, I always get annoyed when I'm talking about race stuff, and it's important. George Floyd will use. And then white men are like, yeah, but other white people get, and it's like, yes, but I'm not talking about that right now.
Yeah.
And so,
oh, it's kind of like, for example, with George Floyd, when like people were trying to bring up like, well, like he like beat women, right? Or like, he did this, right? He didn't pay child support or whatever the fuck. I don't even remember what people were saying. I'm just saying like anything that could have said. But like, it's just kind of like, okay, no one's saying that he was an angel. No one was saying he was a good person. It's the fact of like, he's an example of like shit that's been going on forever.
right.
And that shouldn't go on.
Yes. And I find myself in this constant quandary, this headbutting of my own, you could say, ego, where sometimes I'm like, no, I'm going through something. I want people to listen. And then other times I'm like, am I doing what has been done to me to like women, specifically, I guess, white women in this situation? And you know, I don't know if there's a clear answer to it, but I think you're right. I do think there's an issue with that, and it's complicated.
It's a lot has to do with ego, because like that story you just told me, the first thing I thought is like you guys really were just like
Who wants to win?
fumed on your egos.
Yeah.
At that point it had nothing to do with what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and then once I learned to like, which I have to, you know, we're all imperfect beings, you know, but it's like I have to check myself when it comes to like my ego, and it's like it's definitely hard, but sometimes you got to like look at a situation from like a third party point of view, and it's like instead of putting these like labels of like positive or negative or whatever, just look at what happens and look at it from that point of view of like what actually happens, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're the one who puts that label if this was a positive experience or if it was a negative experience. And once I realized that of like changing perspective, that's when my life really changed for the better.
Was that also when you were starting to get into the Taoism, Buddhism, Tao?
Yeah, because that's when I started learning about that. It was like all about like life is literally just about perspective, because at the end of the day, if you take away religion, you take away moral, like there is no morality in life. We create morality. So to say this person's a good person or this person's a bad person, that's our own label
of our perception of morality on that person.
Exactly. Which is like, and that's why I do consider myself a nihilist, because I do believe that we create our own morals. However, I believe we create morals, but I also do believe that we create our own morals. So when I say nothing matters, I don't mean nothing matters to me. I mean, technically in life, nothing really matters. There's nobody, I mean, unless you do believe in God, like, or Jesus or whoever, like, you know, there's not really anybody telling us, like, this is wrong, this is right. We're the ones who are creating that, because technically we created God as well. You know,
who's a goofy reference? Do you watch Rick and Morty?
Yeah, I love that show.
Perfect. I like using Rick and Morty as an example in the sense that the more, the bigger and wider I guess if you look at it from Rick's perspective, the bigger and the more vast all these universes are, absolutely nothing matters. But then, especially with this most recent season, I don't know if you've been keeping up, they've like honed in on the family, and then the smaller you get and the more intimate and personal, everything matters.
Exactly.
And it's so, and seeing his progression has been fascinating, seeing this guy who understands that nothing matters, and he's created his own meaning of what matters.
Exactly. And that's how I feel about, you know, we are the ones who create our own reality, and we create what matters to us.
Do you believe in God?
Not God in the sense, but I do kind of believe in like
higher power.
More just like energy, I guess. Universe, whatever you want to say. I'm starting to kind of lean towards that.
What do you think happens when we die?
I don't know. I hope it's reincarnation. I'm not gonna lie. That's part of the reason I liked Buddhism at first. I used to say, when I first started getting into it, I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm exactly a Buddhist, but like I want to believe in it. But yeah, I hope reincarnation's real, and I kind of want to break the cycle, because I would like to just be a spiritual being that can help in that way.
That's breaking the cycle would be reaching enlightenment, right?
Yeah, and like not coming back to Earth.
What happens when you don't come back to Earth?
From what I've heard, it's like, or at least studied, it's like mostly like you kind of become like an entity, like kind of like a spiritual being, of part of the universe.
Like you're beyond the physical form of...
Yeah, and then you can come back to Earth, but like almost like as a spirit, kind of. But it kind of depends on what you believe, or which section of like Buddhism you believe in too. Because there's definitely different parts.
It's funny. It's funny how people will kill people over these thoughts and discussions.
I know, it's insane. Tell me about it. I'm Middle Eastern. Like, my dad literally was a refugee, like, because he had to leave because of religious prosecution. Like,
it's so frustrating. There was the I don't know how into politics you are. I like talking about it, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm also an idiot. So
at the end of the day, I'm like, my opinion doesn't matter. I'm not gonna change anything.
Nihilism.
Yeah.
Let's agree we're two idiots talking about stuff.
Yeah.
But I watched this video. I guess the Senate or Congress or something just passed the Equal Respect for Marriage Act.
Yeah.
And there was this video of this woman who's Republican, and she's crying. She's like, I just want to save the sanctity of marriage, and we need to vote against this. And she's like in tears. And in my head, I'm like, how do you reach a point of ego, we'll call it, where you are crying because other people are in love? Because that's really what it's crazy.
And especially when that's like about race, right? It's not even about gender.
It's both. It's race and it's about homosexuality. So it's the
respect.
Oh,
okay. I wasn't sure about that part. Okay, I thought it was just about interracial marriage.
It's both. It's interracial marriage and gay marriage.
Because like, I mean, I'm obviously like, because I'm pansexual, so like, obviously like I'm I'm in the queer spectrum or whatever, but like. So don't take what I'm saying as like homophobic, but it's like I can kind of understand when people are against gay marriage. I'm not saying I agree with it, obviously, but like I get it because it's like, oh, my religion tells me it's wrong, supposedly. But like for interracial marriage, just like there's nowhere in the Bible that's racist. That's why I don't understand Christians, especially that are super racist, because I'm like, if anything, it's like the opposite.
Exact opposite. I think it's just an excuse. In the same way, like, have you ever met or seen a comic who will go on stage and not be funny and say horrific, awful shit?
Oh yeah, because they're trying to do shock.
Yeah, trying to do shock humor, but in reality, you're just using the veneer of stand-up as an excuse to be an asshole.
Yeah. That's how I feel about a lot of like male comics that are like super misogynist. It's like they feel like they can use it as an excuse because it's like, oh, I'm making a joke, or oh, I'm talking about white women, so that's like, that's not a marginalized group, and it's like, well, you're still being misogynist. Like. Right. There's a difference between making a point and just being an ass,
Yes. And finding that line, if there even is a line, is a tricky one, because I do think you need to go out there and make mistakes and fuck up. But at the same it's like, it's what's in your heart, I guess.
It's all about intention.
Yeah, it's life. But pansexual. Okay. I have a question. Mm-hmm. Let me I'm reining it in. I've been talking to the therapist. God damn. I'm curious what I would be labeled under, and I will explain. Let me get some more context. Let me get some more context. Okay, so I'm down to like date trans women, right?
Oh, okay.
But I've talked to trans women about this, and some say, well, that would be technically on the queer spectrum or LGBT spectrum. And then others say, no, I'm a woman. You're not, like, that's not on the spectrum. And I sincerely do not know, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, nihilism. But for sake of discussion, I sincerely don't know what category, what I would be put under.
I have no idea.
Okay. I thought you were the expert. You had the glasses.
No, that's one thing. I'm like, I know about me. I like whoever. I just go with the flow.
When did you realize that about yourself?
Probably when I was like a teenager.
Oh, so that's very fast.
Yeah, because I was just like, was kind of always attracted to women. But like I never considered myself a lesbian. It was just more of just kind of like, well, I like guys too, and I just kind of liked people. So then when I heard that word, because I didn't like the word bi, because growing up in like the early 2000s, it was like, especially when that Katy Perry song came out, that I Kissed a Girl. Yeah, it was like every fucking girl was like, I'm bi, because it was a trend. Yeah. Like at that time, which nobody wants to admit, but it was true. It was definitely a trend to be bi. And I hated that word because I felt like it was just so tainted, because I'm like, all these girls are like, oh, I'll make out with girls just to attract guys. And it's like, what? That's not, yeah. And then, so, like I just, when I heard about the word pansexual, I'm like, oh, I like that word better because it just kind of means you just like people. You don't look at them as like a man or a woman or a trans person or whatever. You're just looking at people as people. And I just kind of vibe with that label more, but I also kind of hate labels, so
nihilism, bro.
Yeah.
Nothing matters, dude.
Yeah, but then it's like I also like I feel like one of those like poser ass girls that like mostly dates guys, but it's just like, oh, I recently started making this joke where I'm like, oh, I date men because they're easy. men are
I
sluts.
saw that the coming out of the ground, getting pussy.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, because if I went on the street right now and like, started being like, I need dick, I'm horny, like
Yeah.
50 men will just like crawl out of the gutter, be like, where are you? I need pussy. Like, it's just true.
Yeah,
Like,
you're not wrong.
but yeah. And that's the other thing with the whole like queer community. I'm homophobic, man. I hate queer people. No. Like, no, I'm kidding. But like, no, it just sucks because it's like if you're like bi or pan or just queer or whatever fucking label you want to put, if you're not gay, like if you're not homosexual or heterosexual, it's like nobody believes you,
Yeah.
which I kind of get because like I was saying before, people have definitely put a bad like connotation on that label, but also it sucks because then it's like there's a lot of like queer phobia in the LGBTQ community because it's like gay people or just like homosexual people, like gay or lesbian, they don't want to date people that are bi or pan.
Why?
Because they think they're going to cheat on them with a straight person.
But you can cheat on them with the other gay.
Exactly. Or they just think they're not like being serious, because they've been
like
hurt.
they're joking.
Well, a lot of times they have been hurt in the past where it's like they would date someone and like they would leave them for like the opposite gender or something. And it's like, I get that, but it's also ego, man. Ego. Yeah. Like, you got to put that shit aside. Like, that's not like, dude, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if I like a person, I like them. I'm not going to leave them for a different gender. Like, I don't care. Like, right.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you, and I think ultimately that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think I want to come up with a new way to end. I'm realizing that there's no beginning to this podcast and there is no clear end. So I think, I'm just experimenting here. If there's anything you want to say to somebody, you're welcome. Ooh, Shoaib, do I have an idea? I'm being a crazy person. It's coming off the rails. I was holding it together for a while.
Let out your crazy.
I want some sort of, what's a good last, like if you could say something to the camera or something to somebody, how should I? I'm coming up with the podcast while we're discussing the podcast.
Right.
Like if I don't know, is there anything last thing you want to say before we take this picture and I kill myself because of how shitty this is?
Well, it seems like a lot of this we're talking about ego,
yeah.
And like I said, you got to set your ego aside and look at life from a perspective of just no labels, like no positive, no negative, like, and also practicing gratitude. That's really important too. I forgot to bring that up earlier, but that's helped me a lot, is like remembering. I say this a lot where I'm like, you can live in a mansion and like be rich and you could be miserable because I don't have a Lamborghini. Or you could live in a tent under the bridge and be like, wow, I have a tent and that's keeping me warm at night and I'm safe.
Perspective.
It's all about perspective and gratitude.
Yeah, I like the way that ended. Let's take this picture.
Awesome.
Okay.